I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants.
Oh, conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories right off the top.
I had a patient today, and I think the first 30 minutes of the video, we just talked about conspiracies. And it went from like your typical kind of normal stuff. Like, I mean, this isn't a theory, but taxation is basically extortion.
Yeah, for sure.
But all the way down to like lizard people, like deep level of conspiracy. Like we talk about aliens, like government, CIA cover-ups, and they got down to even like lizard people, where I was like, I'm gonna have to look into lizard people now. Like, what is this? Like, I've heard of it, but even for me, I was like, that might be a little far out there. Like that one, I don't know. So
is the lizard people like the hills have eyes kind of people, or what is that?
No. So the explanation I got today. So what I had heard previously, and what I had heard, like I said, I was just like, that's a little crazy even for me.
Yeah.
But it was that like certain people among us are like literally like lizard people. And that's kind of what like I heard. It's like, Nancy Pelosi's 110 years old. She's a lizard person, or like certain politicians are lizard people. Well, the explanation I got today, and they gave me some stuff to look up, and they're like, this guy had read it, and he's like, if you read this, he's like, I don't know if it's true, but if this is true, it's wild. And so the premise is, and we got on this because we started talking about aliens and whether they exist or not. And the premise that he gave me, and this is just a real brief overview of what someone told me, is that aliens exist, and lizard people are most likely an ancient alien life form that they've been around millions and millions of years, far more sophisticated than us, and that they live either among us in disguise or like under the Earth's crust or something like that. Because somebody from, I think he said Sweden, claims to have like had contact with a lizard person, and that they're just a highly intelligent being, what we would call like an alien, that I guess is similar, reptilian type in nature, but high functioning, like very highly conscious being, that is from another world, or like I said, they might be living among us and came here many years ago or something. And I was like, well, like I said, at first I was like, lizard people sounds a little wild. However, I do believe the possibility of aliens, and just because what is an alien? It could be anything. It could be something that looks similar to us. It could be little green people that are, have 2 arms and 2 legs with a big head. Or it could be, an alligator that lives to be 400 years old and is wildly more intelligent than we could ever imagine. Like, who knows what it really is? I definitely believe there's the existence of aliens.
I agree. I think aliens are real. And right now you've got me thinking about that one scene from Men in Black where like it's the old bald dude like laying on the table, and they like touch his earlobe and his head like opens up, and there's like the little baby in there, and he's like, like that's literally when we talk about lizard people and like conspiracy theories around aliens and shit like that. That's what it reminds me of to a T.
Yeah, like because at first thought you say lizard people, that's all right. Now that's real fucking that
sounds wild, yeah.
But then like I said, when you piece it together and you explain it like that, like I believe in aliens, but that doesn't. And we have no idea what aliens look like. They could literally just look like we've all seen little green men or little gray, like tall gray men kind of thing. They're always human-like, but who's to say they're anything that looks anything like us? It could be an octopus that's 12 feet tall. Like we have no idea what an alien truly looks like, or at least we don't. So when he kind of explained it like that, I'm not saying I believe in it, and I haven't read the paper. It was this morning when we talked about it, but I was like, all right, I believe in aliens. I've just never looked in, thought too much about what they would actually look like,
Right.
It could be like Guardians of the Galaxy type stuff, or Men in Black type stuff, where it's a wildly different looking type of creature or species, but it's still highly intelligent, and it's not as human like as we imagined or that you see in movies and stuff. So
well, even like going back to like the aliens, do aliens exist question, I think the answer is yes, because obviously like we can't even explain what half of these unidentified flying objects are in the sky, and then the government will be like, oh, it's just a SpaceX launch, or oh, it's a drone, or this, that, and the other, and it's almost just like, for lack of better words, excuses to like just keep the truth away from you. So again, it could be one giant conspiracy where you're probably right. These lizard people, these aliens, they do live among us. We just don't know who they are. Like if I were gonna say, if I had to put money on it of one person I think is an alien, that dude in the NBA, Wemby, bro, that guy's for sure an alien.
Yeah, yeah,
like no way that guy's human. No way.
yeah. But did you hear about anything about the pyramids recently? Like
No, and before you go into the pyramids, I always go back to this. How? Like, how did they have the ability to construct these massive pyramids with literally, I mean, like I'm looking out the window right now at the W Hotel, which is like, I guess you could call it a high rise for Scottsdale. And it's like, okay, clearly that was built with a crane and human beings, but like take the crane away. You mean to tell me human beings single-handedly built the pyramids that big? I just don't get it. How?
Yeah. I mean, they've like the stones in that pyramids are built out of are massive and weigh like many tons. And they're still unsure of how it was created because even today we don't really have the machines capable of building that structure with those objects. Obviously, we can build amazing things now, but it's different. We don't lift 20-ton stones and stack them on top of each other and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like
And so it's like if we
I just
can't
don't get how.
do that now, how did they do that back then? So that's always been like an alien thing. It's like, all right, well, how are the pyramids made? Because it seems physically impossible.
Right.
Uh, but recently, and another thing, like real quick, is a lot of those pyramids are aligned with like celestial beings or stars or like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And there's some of them are also in certain points, like they're located in certain areas where there's like really high magnetic fields, like like the Earth's natural electromagnetic fields and stuff. So a lot of those pyramids, the alignment and the position and the location is in a very interesting location. That how would they have known that back then? And
Yeah.
it's hard to believe that it's a coincidence. It happens to be on this fault line where there's massive amounts of like naturally occurring magnetic energy from the Earth, or a change in gravity, or just the weird environmental anomalies that come with Earth and the physics and just stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the new development that is interesting is that apparently you're not allowed to like explore or like research those pyramids. Like they're blocked off for some reason, which is also
Weird.
adds to the weirdness of it and the conspiracy. It's like, why aren't we allowed to study this?
Right.
Somebody used a satellite and used essentially like an underground like radar or sonar kind of system. The guy I heard about this on Rogan, and then I also heard about it from the guy I was talking to earlier today.
Mhm.
Uh, but some kind of imaging radar type system, and they found that there are tunnels from the bottom of the pyramids. I think it was like a mile deep into the ground, and
Shit.
then a mile deep into the ground with like stairs and stuff all the way down. There's these massive chambers that are like 250 feet high by 250 feet wide, just
The hell?
massive underground chambers. And the guy I was actually talking to about it today he's an engineer, and he's like, that's not really possible
Yeah.
with
Like how?
today's engineering feats. We have no idea how building the top of what we see on the surface, we still don't know, let alone if this is true that there's this massive underground like tunnel and then wildly massive chambers underground. It's like we couldn't even explain the top, and now we got the whole bottom part that's a mile underground. We definitely can't explain how that was built, or at this point, why it was built either. Um,
That's
and
wild. I've never even heard that part of it with the underground layer.
that's like a new development. Like I heard
That's,
about that like in the last week.
well,
So
even
again, I'm not 100% sure if it's true, but that's what is coming out. That's some kind of radar, sonar, some kind of imaging system, since they're not allowed to walk in, was used, and that's what they found. I originally heard that on Joe Rogan. Um,
I just, I mean, I even wonder too, like going back to kind of that ancient period of time, like you would look at like hieroglyphics and the detail in like the carvings or the writing in the stone. And again, like how hard is it to engrave into stone? Very hard. So the
yeah,
fact that they have these very detailed like languages, writings, scriptures, whatever, I'm like, how did you do all this with like a chisel and your bare hand? Like that just doesn't make sense to me, and I could never ever wrap my head around it.
I've seen some documentaries that talked about that. They essentially looked at certain carvings, hieroglyphics, etches, stuff like that, and they're like, this particular stone is marble, or this particular stone is limestone, or whatever it was made out of. And they're
Right.
like, in order to like carve this out or have these perfectly straight lines or whatever it was, they're like, they would have had to have had like diamond tip tools or lasers. It
Right.
is, they're like, it is impossible for this to have been formed with a chisel and a hand. And they didn't have any tool, like, you know, motorized, mechanized tools.
Right.
And they're like, this is essentially impossible to make given the tools they had back then, or there was help from an outside source. And then a lot of those hieroglyphs specifically, like a lot of those civilizations and stuff, they had hieroglyphs and pictures and words and documents that all like referred to like godlike people or flying, like they all had like similar stories about flying objects, or again, people that could communicate like telekinetically or like telekinesis or telepathically is the correct word.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so was that like, were they worshiping a god, or was that just an alien that was like highly sophisticated and could fly and maybe had like telepathic abilities? I'm not like, I don't want to get too religious, but like all these different, ancient civilizations had similar accounts, a lot of them, and it's like, was this, did they worship God, or did some kind of alien come down, help them build the pyramids and do these things, and they
Right.
thought it was like a god because it was so much, so much more intelligent than they were. So, if someone were to come down into your house right now and like evaporate through your ceiling and then, lift you up with their hands like in the air, like magically, you might think they're God when you have no other
Right.
explanation. Imagine what they thought 7,000 years ago when something came floating down from the heavens
Yeah.
and then was able to like move stones with their head or something. That sounds
Well,
like God to me. Like,
not to go too deep into religion, but as you're talking about like the alien and whatnot, I started thinking and I was laughing because I'm thinking about like, isn't that what Scientology believes? That like there's like I
what if
just remember that episode of
Scientology is
South
right
Park.
and we all just like made fun of them and now like they're actually right the whole time?
I mean, I again, like I'm not the most religious person. Obviously, I believe in God and I do have faith, but at the same time, like there are just some things like in real life, modern day society, like the pyramids, I can't wrap my head around. But yeah, with conspiracy theories, I mean, the one that I'm still trying to figure out, because I see all these videos popping up on social media, who shot JFK, and yet we still don't know, even though like apparently they've declassified the files and released the information, but yet it's still kind of this gray area of who actually pulled the trigger, and no one seems to have the answer. So I was going to ask you, who killed JFK?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald is the one that like took the fall and is
Yeah.
supposed. I think most likely, and I haven't done a lot of digging on this, but it's been popping up recently, so I've been paying more attention. It sounds like Lee Harvey Oswald was probably one of the shooters, and or one of the multiple people involved. Now they're saying there might have been two shooters and
Right.
possibly 2 to 4 shots taken. And I saw some of the video, and it's they were talking about like from where the original story is, where they say he got shot, makes no sense on where you watch the video, where his head clearly like goes back into the left
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
being shot, and it's like, all right, so if he got, it goes back into the left, it came, from in front of him forward.
Right. 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 Based on like the trajectory, the impact, all that.
Yeah. So they said like, all right, so the original story definitely does not make sense. They also apparently did 2 different autopsies, and in both autopsies there was like differences in them. I'm trying to remember exactly what they said. And I think the second autopsy, because I think they did one in Dallas and then they flew his body to like Washington D.C. or something. Don't quote that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they had two
Probably DC.
autopsies. And then like the second one, they had pictures of the autopsy, and his face was fine. And it's like,
How?
his head was blown.
Your brains just got blown out.
His
How?
face was on Jackie's sweater. Like there wasn't much of his face or head
Yeah,
left.
that's crazy.
But in the picture, they showed like a normal face, and it's like, was that a fake body, a body double, or something? Where was the real body? So there's a ton of like, obviously a ton of conspiracies with this. I don't know who did it. I think Lee Harvey Oswald was either a patsy or one of multiple shooters possibly.
Right.
They even went on to say like people who knew Lee Harvey Oswald, he was not a good shot. So for him to pull off this type of shot and in a moving vehicle would have been hard to believe almost.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think some of the issues with them apparently declassifying a bunch of information is that they just released like 80,000 pieces of like documents, like paper
Right.
basically, and there's no like specific order necessarily. It's just like, here's everything we have.
Take it all.
Yeah,
Take
now,
what you will.
sift through it and see what you can figure out and find. So it's almost like starting from scratch. We have all this raw information. It's like a
Yeah, it's
puzzle that
weird.
hasn't been put together yet. So I think that's why like it's been released, but then there hasn't been a ton of like definitive news that's come out since. It's because like for anyone that has to like look through it, in order to come up with anything useful, you got to look through a lot of work, a lot of paper, a lot of documents, a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So like we don't know, they may have declassified it, but it's like we still don't know because who's gone through the 80,000 papers in the last week or so. Like,
I ain't got the time for that shit.
so like I said, I haven't gone into that one too much, but it seems very clear that the CIA was involved.
Hmm.
If I remember right, Lyndon B. Johnson uh, was not the best person and may have been controlled by outside sources or influenced by outside sources. And
Sure.
they essentially, I think, I know, have you heard of Operation Northwoods?
Mm-mm.
So Operation Northwoods is a big thing regarding, in my mind, a big reason why I think 9/11 was an inside job. So Operation Northwoods is not a conspiracy. It's been declassified. It has been requested as a Freedom of Information Act request. It's out
Sure.
on the internet. You can Google it. It's not deniable. It's a fact.
Right.
I've read it myself. Operation Northwoods was a document, an idea to either fake or carry out terrorist type attacks on the U.S. so that we could engage in war with Cuba and overthrow, I believe it was Castro at the time, Fidel Castro. Um, and so one of them was like, I think, attacking an airline jet or something full of college kids. One was attacking, I believe, a U.S. Naval boat or destroyer battleship. And then there was like I think one more option. I don't remember exactly, but it was basically just saying we're going to either fake or actually carry out attacks on U.S. people so that we can blame it on Cuba, and then everybody like 9/11 will immediately be like, "Fucking get them," and no
Yeah.
one's going to question it. That way they could overthrow the Cuban government. Like I said, I believe it was Fidel Castro at the time. JFK denied that and said, no, like we're not going to attack our own citizens.
Right.
Realistically, we're faking
That's
it.
crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. And so that, among multiple other things that JFK did, because from what I've seen, it seems like JFK was one of the few people that wasn't like a paid puppet and was like
Right.
actually trying to do a good job, like trying to help.
Which leads to
Whether
kind of a
you,
story I heard where it was like almost like the assassination was, quote, decided on internally, where it's like, yo, JFK's got to go. Like he's standing for the wrong things. And not to say that's how government works, but I mean, America is a business. And like any other business, you do what you got to do to make that business succeed. So I
yeah,
hate to say if killing somebody is the answer to that, maybe it's true.
yeah, and that's kind of like what some of the stuff I've seen is said. It's like JFK was doing things that everybody around him didn't necessarily agree with.
Mhm.
And eventually there, the conversation was had like, how do we get him out of the way? And it was like, apparently the only way to really get him out of the way was literally and physically remove him now.
Right, right.
And, 30 minutes after the fatal shot was taken, Lyndon B. Johnson is sworn in. Jackie standing next to him, but still has like JFK's brain matter on her blouse or, her
Yeah.
whatever she was wearing. And there's a weird moment that they actually show Lyndon B. Johnson and someone else. I don't remember the name. They like look at each other while he's like being sworn in, and they kind of smirk. And it's just a quick
A little
little like,
sus.
smile, and it's like that's a weird thing. That
Yeah.
one, who knows? You never know what that means. But when you take all the other information and then kind of listen to it, and then you hear that little like smirk kind of happened 30 minutes after JFK's head was blown off, and you're being sworn in as president now.
Yeah. Timing's a little off.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of interesting stuff. There's like I said, I haven't gone too deep into that one, but it's like seems like the CIA was all involved. You're not allowed to say certain things about certain countries, but
Agreed.
Mossad.
I mean, here's the thing is even with like even the Epstein files, they're quote unclassified right now. It's still like pretty vague who, what, where, when type thing. And then I listen to just some random channels on YouTube where they'll talk about political conspiracies and things like that. And one of the stories or angles I heard recently was that Jeffrey Epstein was actually a double agent working for the Mossad. And so obviously with Epstein being a Jewish name, ties to Israel. And so it's just crazy when you kind of start to see there's too many things coincidentally that link up where it kind of starts to make sense. Maybe we're just that paranoid or crazy to believe it. Maybe there's where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't necessarily know, but I think when you're educated enough to know something smells a little fishy, you do start looking for other information. And when, 2 + 2 = 4, it's pretty hard not to do that math. So
I think the recent release of like Epstein files was BS because I think that when you look into it, like you said, it wasn't just Jeffrey Epstein acting alone. He
right.
might have been the
Yeah,
head.
squad.
He was like the ringleader of like,
Right.
come to my island, I'll hook you up with whatever you're looking for, kind of thing. But he wasn't in charge. He wasn't just doing that for fun. Like there was a reason behind it. And like you said, my opinion, theory is obviously he was working for someone else, whether it's the CIA, whether it's Assad, whether it's both, whether it's, who
Some
knows?
intelligence agency.
Someone
Yeah.
else was telling him to do these things because now what does his house have? With the cameras and the witnesses, now they have dirt on so many wealthy people, politicians, Prince Edward, Prince Charles, one of the princes. They have all this blackmail, and you get caught with an underage girl, whether it's consensual or not. That's not a good look. It's a really
Never
bad
is.
and if someone says, I have you on camera with a 16-year-old, or I have you on camera with an unconsenting anybody,
Automatic leverage and
your
blackmail.
life is done, or you do what I say and you play ball.
Exactly.
All right,
It's
well,
automatic.
So and so now, or I'm going to send money to so and so's campaign. Like, and so I think that someone was, above Epstein, and that may have been our CIA, it may have been Mossad, it may be both. Who knows? But I think the reason why that we got like no information from the release was because they realized if we expose everything we know, it's going to expose ourselves and or our allies, and
Yeah.
that can't happen because that's a big problem.
Well, do you think sometimes, for lack of better words, it's like the old, you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. You know what I mean? Almost like the majority of Americans might not actually be able to handle the truth of the situation. So let's spin another story that makes some degree of sense where they'll accept it. Half of them might, the other half are going to question it, but at least that kind of, blows things under the radar and we can just keep going at running America as a business like we need to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why, in general, I think that might be why a lot of conspiracy theories, especially like aliens and stuff like that, are kept kind of quiet, is because I don't know if humanity can handle some of these things.
See, I want to know,
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I want to know what's going
I
on.
just want to know. And
Yeah, I think it would blow a lot of people's minds. And your theory about like not being able to tell everybody because they might not handle it. Andy Frisella actually kind of had that theory. He's like, maybe we're holding back on Epstein because the reality of that is so wild. I mean, it implicates that multiple world governments, one or multiple world governments, are colluding in creating a global sex trafficking ring in order to extort important, powerful, or influential people. Like that's kind of wild. Like that's
But when
out
you
of
say it like that, does it sound that crazy? No, it actually sounds really realistic.
I don't think it sounds crazy because
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense to me,
Right.
But not everybody believes that. I mean, it was crazy enough that Epstein was doing this in the first place, but then look, now we got Diddy. It's like, well, this is not even an isolated, like it's a wildly horrible thing, but now we already have two examples within a decade of just this horrible, organized criminal sexual thing that is again most likely blackmail. And that's another thing is like we have no idea who was at Diddy parties. Nothing's been released officially, and we don't know who went to Epstein's island really. We know he sex trafficked a bunch of minors and has all these people travel to his island, but nobody's been brought up on charges. It was just him and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
Like, what about all your customers? You're in jail for a global sex trafficking ring. Where are your customers?
It's like if this is as widespread as we are talking about, then how do only 2 people take the fall? Like that's pretty sus too. And one person just, oh, he died in jail, committed suicide. That's an easy out.
Yeah. But anyways, back to real quick. Andy kind of had the theory that like, maybe that's too much all at once. Not everybody would believe it. So maybe we need to like water it down or like introduce something a little less controversial to like kind of like warm people up and just be like, hey, by the way, the government lies. Hey, by the way, JFK was killed by the CIA. Hey, by the way, aliens are real. Hey, there's a global sex trafficking ring. Hey, lizard people are here. Like,
But see,
they
like,
gotta kinda, like, ease us into it.
I'm one of those people who, like, when I say I seek truth, like, even with, this is a terrible analogy, but it's like when UPS lost your package, I'm literally asking myself logically, how do you lose something that has tracking on it? So it's almost like when the government tells you, oh, the sky is green, and you're like, no, motherfucker, it's blue. I know it's blue. You ain't going to change my mind. It's kind of the same thing with some of these topics where I'm like, okay, like where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think a lot of people are smart enough to see that, but then also sit here and say, okay, but where's the truth lie in all of these kind of conspiracies? Because clearly what you're telling us ain't the real deal.
Yeah, and there's so many different examples of our government like lying and hiding to us. And like the Operation Northwoods, like I said, you can Google that. That's
Oh,
not even
yeah,
like
yeah.
in on Google. That is out in public information. It's been declassified, Freedom of Information Act. But then there's also things like the Tuskegee experiments where the government experimented and actually experimented on black people. It was racist as shit.
Mm.
And allowed them just to die so they could experiment on them. I believe they did kind of the same thing in Cuba. So the Tuskegee, they took black individuals with syphilis and they told them they were treating them and they weren't. They were giving them placebo and just watching how syphilis killed people just to see like
Fucked up.
how the disease progressed. But they told the black people they were helping them and they weren't. They were literally just, if we let this go, what happens? So we could learn.
That's wild.
And I think in Cuba, they did the same thing, but instead of just taking people with syphilis, they infected them with syphilis and then watched what happened. And then you
We
have
need
like
two sample sizes.
yeah, and then they had like the MK Ultra experiments that were kind of like mind control and like using getting people high and like LSD and acid and like kind of messing with them and trying to implant memories in their brain and stuff like that. And that's another one that's like that's out in the open. It's not a conspiracy. Like our government in I think the 60s and 70s literally fed people drugs and studied them to see like what does sleep deprivation do? Can we hypnotize or change people under these mind altering drugs like LSD and acid and stuff? And
Well,
again, that's another
technically,
one that's like all those things I just said, Tuskegee, the Cuba incident, which I don't remember the name, MK Ultra, those are all declassified, like open information, not a conspiracy theory. Like our government did that. So we have a history of doing some really wild, messed up things and like hiding it and lying, like literally human experimentation, murder, just constant lies. And it's like, so we have a pattern here of a government doing some weird ass shit and lying
right.
about it. And then like 30 years later, 40 years later, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, no big deal.
Hey, just want to let you know.
Yeah, and then people are like, yeah, everything the government says now is definitely true. It's like, well, if we're talking if we looking historically, they haven't been 100 with us this whole time. So all
Yeah,
the
no,
like, that's why I'm like open to conspiracies is because I'm like a lot of conspiracies are now true that we used to saying that the government was doing mind control experiments with LSD 50 years ago, you'd have been like, what? But now it's like, no, they did. That's just well known fact.
well, I was gonna say technically they're still doing it. It's just instead of LSD, it's Adderall.
Yeah.
Like it's no different. I mean, think about how much of our generation, that adolescent teenage group, is prescribed Adderall, and we don't technically know what the long-term side effects are of it. So I guess that's the study of this generation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they hand that out like candy.
That'll be an interesting one. All right, well, shit, we just jumped right into it as always, but welcome back, guys. We got episode 7 right now. This week, no guests, just me and Justin, just a couple bros kicking it for a little bit. But yeah, no, the conspiracy theory stuff, like I said, we jumped into it because I'm still wondering, like, how is everything out there, but yet I still don't just have an answer of who killed JFK. If I type into Google, who killed JFK, Chat GPT, Google, no one can give me just a straight answer. So I'm like, why is this so shady? So weird.
Yeah.
Um, so anyways, what's going on with you outside of brushing up on recent conspiracy theories?
Yeah. Other than that, funny. After I talked to that guy, and he's an educated guy too, so it's not that. I mean, it adds to the credibility of the.
Sure.
But after I talked to him, we talked about Bob Lazar. I was listening to Bob Lazar's podcast with Joe Rogan on the way home. And Bob Lazar is someone who supposedly worked at like Area 51 on alien technology. So I've been like my whole day after that, like I've spent a ton of time on like alien stuff today.
That's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
yeah, other than that, a good day, just busy. Got home at like 6:30 and then ate a meal and basically got ready for this.
Nice. Dude, I literally just got back from the gym. I had kind of a weird day. Like one of my clients had to reschedule. He was feeling sick. So that just kind of like threw my day off, not in a bad way, but just like made some adjustments. And then so I actually just got back home. I've been at the gym all day and I was training legs today. And it was so funny. Like I go up to the front of my gym. We've got like this water fountain with like the baby ice like they have at Sonic. So obviously baby ice is the best ice. So anyways, so I fill up my pre-workout with my baby ice. And I was sitting there talking to one of the girls at the front, and she's older, probably like late 40s, early 50s. And she was just like, "Oh, what do you train?" I was like, "I'm going to hit legs." And jokingly, I was like, "Yeah, hop in with me." And she's like, "Okay, I'm down." I was like, "Wait, for real?" And so she actually, like, props to her. She smoked this workout with me, obviously like relative to her own numbers. But dude, I literally just hit 1,000-pound leg press today, and I've never hit that number before. And I was like, how did I just hit that? Like, it was so random, but it was like literally one of the best leg days I've had in a while. So shout out Jamie. I appreciate the push today.
Jamie, nice work.
What's that?
Hell yeah, Jamie, nice work.
Yeah, Jamie just, I don't know. She was motivating me, but it was actually cool because she was talking about, and I don't think she's like told many people this, but she was talking about how she has the desire to compete. And, you know, she, like I said, she's a little bit older. She's had 2 kids. They're fully grown. So it's just her and her husband. She works at a gym, obviously. And I was telling her, I was like, dude, I was like, I get excited when people tell me they're going to compete for their first time, because you and I obviously know how satisfying and gratifying like that feeling of making it through a prep, getting on stage, winning, like we know how all of that feels. So when I see someone else who's kind of like got that idea like stewing in their head, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, good for you. That's so cool. Cause like you already know it's going to be the highest high they've ever felt in their whole life. And it's just the best feeling when you do it. So I hope she locks in for a show, because I think she would do really well. She already has a good physique and obviously works at a gym. So she has all the tools, all the resources, trainers around. Like she could really do well if she locks in. And I think she's going to. So I'm hyped
And
for
she's
her.
got a lot going for it. Like you said, she's married and kids are out of the house. So she's got a husband to hopefully support her and no kids to worry about. And like, sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it's just funny because like if you would have seen the dynamic, you've got me obviously younger with 1,000 pounds on the leg press, and then I've got an older woman spotting me as I'm doing it. But low key, it was a vibe. And like, so we haven't even really talked about my new gym much, but dude, I'm so excited for when you guys come out here to check this place out. Like, I mean, you and I have been fortunate enough to travel across the country and train at some of the top facilities. And I have to say, not just because I work there and I'm affiliated with it, but the gym I'm training my clients out of now is probably one of the top 5 facilities in the country, from the variety and equipment, how brand new everything is, but also like focusing on a completely different side of health and wellness. We have all of the recovery aspects we've got a DEXA scan, we've got cold plunge, we've got cryo, we've got 2 different types of saunas, we've got red light therapy, we've got IV therapy. Like we have everything, where it's like, for me, I knew going to this gym for myself would be a huge advantage, because now I've given myself the best tools and resources to grow as an athlete, but also the same for my clients, where I was like, I'm literally giving them the best resources available. So all they have to do now is show up and put in the work, and they're going to get results. And so like, dude, it's been such a blessing in disguise, where like being in this new gym, I just feel like, I don't want to say anything's possible, but like, I feel like, for lack of better words, all I have to do is show up and work hard, and I'll get to where I want to be. And so will my clients. So it's really dope. I love it.
Yeah, that's a great place to be. It sounds like it has like everything needed for fitness and like recovery.
Dude, like even on a day, if I forget my meal, they have a meal prep company that drops off meals fresh in our fridge every day. So usually I can grab one of those. We've got supplements, smoothies. Obviously, you know, I'm working on getting like some of the brands I work with, getting their products in there as well, like Bum Energy, Raw Nutrition, things like that. But nonetheless, like, it's just crazy, because as someone who's spent so much of my adult life in gyms and around gym culture, to be part of something that's as big as this is, and also like how cool and positive the culture is, like it's really special. And I just don't see that at a lot of gyms. Like normally at most gyms, it's kind of like you see people kind of like glaring at you or eyeballing you, and it's like a weird vibe. But here, like everyone's so nice. Like people just come up in the middle of my workout, not like bother me, but they're like, "Hey, bro, looking good." Like, you're like, "Oh, thanks, man. Like, nice to meet you." Like, but it's just like such a positive environment that like I think, for lack of better words, this chapter I'm in right now of my bodybuilding career, like I truly believe this next 12 to 18 months is where I'm going to turn pro. And I now feel like I'm setting myself up for success in every aspect of my life. Dude, my diet has been so on point. My training's on point. I have a dedicated posing room there. I'm doing recovery multiple times a week. I should probably do tanning because I'm white as fuck. But but it's just like when I say I am so spoiled, I make the joke all the time where I say, Tom over in Iowa works a 9 to 5, whereas me, I'm a coach. I spend all day in the gym. So now what's my excuse? I shouldn't have one because I have everything at my resources like that.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
dude, I just like every day I wake up and I feel really blessed right now because I mean, I've trained at so many different gyms and had so many different cultures and environments around me, but never have I been surrounded by one that's literally like as positive as it is now. And I really feel like that missing piece of the puzzle is going to like somehow propel me to this next level of my bodybuilding career. So,
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff matters, and anything you can use to your advantage is going to be beneficial. But especially like the recovery stuff that you have.
yeah,
That's
even from like looking specifically at machines, I talk about this one example all the time because like obviously I'll do abductor machine, just kind of get blood flowing. But at the last gym I was at, we only went up to 180. And so obviously like I'm starting at 180, I'm topping out. Well, this one goes up to 300. And now after a few months, I've got my way to 300. But again, like if you're only able to move 180 and you don't have a gym pin, how are you really going to build the best version of yourself when you're not even challenged at that number? So
can't
like
pro- can't progress with it if you're maxing it out.
yeah, so it's like now I really feel like just again, for lack of better words, tools and resources, I have everything at my disposal. So like, I'll tell you this, if I get on stage next time and I don't win, I gotta have a really hard conversation with myself because there ain't no excuses at this point.
Yeah,
But no, everything's been good with me. Training's good. We adjusted my diet a little bit because I think I told you I was at 5,300 calories, which is so much food. We
yeah.
dropped substantially down to 4,300, and now I'm not missing a single meal. I'm going 6 for 6 every single day. Last week I was 100% on my diet, and what happened? Body weight jumped by 3 pounds in a week. Now, again, today I'm over 200 finally because now it's like, well, I'm not force feeding food. I'm just making sure to eat the 4,300 calories I need to.
That's
So,
good though.
so yeah, it's kind of nice. But yeah, just feel like with my personal journey, I'm in a really good spot. I mean, obviously I know where there's still gaps and I just got to keep working on growing that muscle and my posing to fill out. But I don't know, it just feels really good to feel really good.
Yeah, you're just like hitting one of those good strides where everything's kind of clicking.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about some of the things they have, I actually found something earlier and I want to read this to you. I took a picture of it. So everyone's got like varying thoughts on the cold plunge. And I saw this and it says, study reveals cold plunges reduce muscle growth by up to 66%. And now, obviously, you and I both know that using the cold plunge after you work out is not beneficial for muscle growth. It pretty much stunts it. But like when I see all these people who, for lack of better words, are doing it because it's trendy or it's a fad, I'm like, bro, you need to strategically do it at the right time so your body actually gets the most of it, not just physically, but mentally as well. But like people don't
Yeah,
realize how detrimental cold plunge can really be for their progress.
yeah. That's I mean that's you kind of summed up basically how I feel about it. Is I'm not like against it, but I feel like a lot of people are just doing it because it's trendy with little to no rhyme or reason or understanding of why,
Yeah.
other than their favorite influencer did it or somebody who's Jack did it. But yeah, the studies I read, and I read this a little bit ago, that cold plunging like immediately after a resistance training workout is actually does actually inhibit or reduce muscle protein synthesis, and
Yep.
therefore is counterintuitive to what we do as bodybuilders. Now I think it was still okay to like cold plunge at different times, like if you wake up in the morning cold plunge and then train 8 hours later. I don't think it had any effect really.
Right.
But the study that I read was like, post workout, that's not a good idea.
So
um,
I'll read you what it says because it goes more in depth. It says research has found that using cold plunges after lifting can actually stunt muscle growth and strength gains. In a 12-week strength training study, those who did cold water immersion after each session gained significantly less muscle mass and strength than those who used active recovery. Despite training identically, cold plungers saw up to 66% smaller increases in muscle growth. Dude,
that's a massive,
66% is
yeah,
a lot.
that's huge. That's not even
Dude,
like splitting hairs or anything. That's a big one.
like,
It's like, all right, absolutely no cold plunging after working out. Like if you want to
yeah.
cold plunge, I'm just gonna say you got to do it before you work out, hours before you work out.
I tell all my people, I'm like, guys, like if you want to use whatever recovery methods, that's great. I support it. But specifically, there's a time and place. Like, excuse me, even with like the compression sleeves. I mean, I like using those, but typically I wouldn't tell someone to use it directly after training legs. Like, yeah, I know you're sore, but allow your body time to recover, your central nervous system time to reset before then you just go and put this huge amount of pressure on the muscles you just exhausted. So typically, I mean, I'll wait a day in between. Like if I train legs Monday, I'll use compression sleeves on Tuesday. And by Wednesday, if I really wanted, I could smack legs again, but I'll still wait till Thursday just for more recovery. Same thing,
Yeah.
just train legs again. So I'll use compression tomorrow, but now I won't smack legs next time until Monday. So I have plenty of rest in between, but I'm doing my recovery in between, not directly after, because I don't want to potentially stunt growth. I mean, that's what I'm in the gym to do.
Yeah. And that's, I think recovery is great and often underutilized. I feel like maybe now it's like picking up steam, and some of it I feel like is probably it's trendy to do
Yeah.
ice baths or infrared sauna or whatever. But like you said, like there's a time and a place for these things, and if you're going to do them, you need to understand why you're doing it, how to do it, when
Yeah.
to do it, all those things. Because I mean, sometimes our natural healing processes, we need to let our body do its natural healing process and recovery process before we start influencing other things. Um, what was the? I was thinking of an example. Remember the rice, rest, ice, compression, and elevate.
Yeah, of
So
course.
the creator of rice, I don't remember his name, but later came out and said, ice immediately, like post injury, is actually bad. I was wrong,
Yeah.
because the ice limits blood flow, which it's topically numbing something, but it's limiting blood flow, which is the point to reduce swelling. But blood flow and bringing nutrients and oxygen and stuff like that to the injury is actually a good thing. So inflammation and increase in blood flow and stuff like that acutely or in small doses at certain times is actually good. You need that to heal properly. It's chronic inflammation and stuff like that that's the problem. But acute inflammation after an injury and increased blood flow after an injury is actually a good thing. So
Mhm.
that's like and that's the ice component of rice. It's probably directly relates to the recovery of muscles, and we're talking about ice baths post workout. Like that
Sure.
immediately cold water is going to reduce blood flow. It's going to reduce inflammation. It's going to reduce topical pain. It's going to make things a little bit numb, but long term, it's actually slowing down recovery. In this
Yep.
case, drastically inhibiting the recovery and growth of muscles. So, like you said, there's a time and a place, but you got to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and when to do it and how to do it properly.
Right. Well, like even I'm sure you can relate to this when we were younger playing hockey, like God forbid I take a shot or a puck off the ankle. Obviously, I'm going to feel that depending, obviously, too, how good or shitty my skates were at the time. But so, you go home after a game, you take a nice shot off the ankle. Yeah, your shit's all swollen. Well, instead of me resting, elevating, ice, compression, all that shit, I would literally go and sit in a hot tub and put that ankle right on a jet. And I'd let that hot water break up any inflammation. And guess what? 3 days later, I'd be back on the ice like nothing ever happened. So for me,
Yeah.
I've always been like, heat has been my best friend. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up in Michigan that I just have a distaste for all things cold. But like, yeah, I just think too many times people are going to fall for like these trendy things. And then they don't even have a valid reason when you ask them, oh, why do you like to cold plunge? And they'll be like, I saw Chris Bumstead do it, so I thought it was healthy. Oh,
Yep.
okay. Well, so again, you're just doing something because you saw it was trendy on social media, but you don't even know why you're doing it is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to understand what you're doing.
Speaking of trends, I got a couple for you that are on the trend train right now. Tell me you've seen this whole Ashton Hall morning routine shit.
Oh my God.
Dude.
So dumb.
This shit.
So
Hold on.
dumb.
Let me start off by saying,
About that when we were talking about ice baths, because I was
yeah,
like, we're gonna lead into kids fucking doing the ice face plunge.
dude, let me just start off by saying, one, Ashton Hall, great physique, nothing but respect for
Yeah.
the guy. Clearly, he's putting in work. But the whole morning routine is just complete rage bait, and he knew exactly what he was doing. This guy is a social media mastermind. I mean, when you look at how people like an Andrew Tate can captivate an entire country, an entire nation around one social media post, Ashton Hall did the same exact thing. He literally duped us all into rage bait, where now everyone's going out buying Saratoga water. Everyone's doing the fucking, even if they're mocking it, they're still doing it. And the funniest part, when I was eating a banana before this, I was going to hop on and jokingly rub the peel on my cheek to see if you would laugh. But like, dude, it's so, here's my genuine take on it is the guy's just making content. Obviously he's having fun doing it. He went from 6 million to 9 million followers, like almost overnight. And like one of his posts yesterday was like 9 mil, thanks for all the love, tune out all the noise. So he knows what he's doing, but it's just crazy that there's people who can do something so simple and it somehow blows up to captivate an entire nation. And we're all talking about it now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, I don't know if that routine is serious or not, but I think he's a marketing genius because everyone has seen it. Everyone's heard it. It doesn't make me mad, but I watched it. I was like,
it's retarded.
It might have made me a little mad. I was like,
it's just retarded.
I'm like, he did 3 hours of almost nothing. Like,
like literally,
get up.
Less time to wake up.
Swimming, you run. Like, I was like, other than the swimming and morning run or whatever, like he did very little in 3 to 4 hours. Like there wasn't that much.
Well, the funny part is,
I think he's, whether it's real or not, like I think you're right. He's a marketing genius, and everyone's talking about it. Like,
I mean, I'll tell you what. If Saratoga Water hasn't sent him a brand deal, they owe him some fucking money right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's another thing. Does he work with them, or is that like, what was that?
No. Like, I would hope for his sake, he's probably got his brand deals lined up. But I saw another take on this, and it was somewhat from like the red pill community talking about, is this guy's morning routine a little sus? And the question they were saying it as is like, is this something a straight man would do in the morning or a gay man? And I was like, I mean, I'm going to go on a limb and say Ashton Hall seems pretty straight to me, but there are a few things in that morning routine that are maybe a little overkill, a little feminine. I mean, again, like I saw someone say like putting on a Van Cleef bracelet to go to the gym is a little extra. Like you're a dude. Come on.
I'm too white trash to know what Van Cleef is, but I did see a bracelet because I did notice. I was like, why are you putting on all this jewelry to go run in the gym? Like a watch and a bracelet.
Hold on. Just for clarification, Rolex, maybe 20, 30K. I didn't see what kind of watch it was. You don't need that to go to the gym. And the bracelet he's wearing is probably another 20 to 30K. You don't need that to go to the gym. So it's like, what are we doing?
Actually, I think I showed Liz either yesterday or either this morning or yesterday. But I was like, I'm not against people having nice things or even like showing some of their nice things.
Yeah.
Like I follow Andy Frisell and he posts his cars every day. Like he'll just post whatever he drives that day. And that's pretty much it. Just music in the car. And I like it because he's got some sweet ass rides. But this Ashton guy, he went running in one of his videos and he's got him and like one other guy. I don't know if it's a driver, a bodyguard or what, but for two guys, they took the G-Wagon and the Rolls Royce. I'm like, why did you need two vehicles? If he's your bodyguard or your driver, why didn't you just take one? And I'm like, I feel like you're just flaunting the money now because it's like his apartment, condo, whatever it was, obviously really nice. It looks like he has money. He's wearing expensive jewelry apparently, and then he's got those two cars. I'm like, I feel like he's really just throwing the money at us. Like,
oh, he's flexing on all of us.
Yeah, he's flexing hard.
Someone basically called it like it's almost like back in the day, maybe like 8 to 10 years ago, what you'd see on social media, and maybe I'll just label it as like success porn, where like people look and like, oh, okay, he's got a good physique. He has nice clothes, nice cars, a nice condo. So obviously like he's successful. So you're almost inclined. It's like the hot girl who says, she drinks detox tea. So it's, of course, you're buying that because you're almost like they're selling the sexy. So it's like, well, he does all this. He looks this way. If I do the same morning routine, dunk my face and use the banana peel, I'm going to look like Ashton Hall too. And it's like, if you go back, because now it's funny how the internet has taken this and gone so wild with it. You've got ESPN posting this guy's high school, college football clips, which is like, who's digging this shit up? But like, rewind, this guy's always been an athlete. He's always been in shape. I think he played in the CFL or the NFL maybe, but like, so it's like, whenever I see someone who's like literally just cracked the code and broken the matrix like that, it's like, dude, props to you, because I think a lot of people who make content would be so happy if any one piece of content they made went viral like that. And he knew exactly what he was doing. So props to him.
Yeah, I was looking at it, like you said, I'm like, this
You
routine
would have
looks a little
spot.
weird. Like, you kind of seem like a douche, but I was like, and I think it's douchey how you're flaunting your money so much. Like, I think
Yeah.
you're trying to do it, but you got some nice shit, dude. I was like, I can't. Like,
I,
you
I,
must be doing okay.
I love the part where it's literally like, you see, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. That was another thing.
Random,
He's got the
like the chick
candy
hands him the ball.
throws
Mario
and
goes, thank
tipping
you.
his bag up, makes him a plate, and he's like, "Thank you." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fucker, like
Just the thank you.
this is ridiculous," but like it looks like you're doing well for yourself, man. I can't hate on that.
I'm not hating. I just think it's funny. And like, again, like props to him because I think it was maybe, don't quote me on this, but like in 6 posts, the guy literally gained 3 million followers, which is crazy. Like, dude, if I gained 30 followers between 6 posts, I'm like, oh, that's decent engagement. 3 million?
That is nuts.
Speaking of things the internet has gone crazy with, I got a few more. Tell me you've seen this Amir Khan dude from the McNeese basketball team, the Indian guy.
Mir Khan.
Oh my
What
God. All right,
basketball
hold
team?
on. I'm gonna get the screen share going. I gotta pull this up. He is
I think
like
this
the
might be
number one hype
you.
man right now. Hold on. Let me see how I do the screen share. Hold up. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Share. All right, wait, hold on. Let me see if I'm doing this right. Share. Share sound. Okay, let me know. Can you see my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Let me pull this up. Amir Aura Khan. This dude literally was the basketball manager for one of those like teams that barely made the tournament. And
Yeah.
all he did was walk out with the team with a boombox, like rapping this one song. And now he's got like all these brand deals. Hold on, let me pull this up. It's so good.
Is he special needs or something?
No, he's just fun.
Amir Khan is the name of their
Listen.
manager. He is cinema.
What you see is what you get. That's how he is.
McNeese student manager Amir Khan does whatever the team needs him to do. In fact, the quote on his team bio reads, if they kept manager stats.
For rebounding, wiping up wet spots, I put up Will Chamberlain numbers.
One of his jobs?
All right, let me see. All right, this is the clip that blew him up.
Like, hey man, this is one of my favorite songs.
In and Out by Lud Foe.
Some of the players saw that. They're like, oh, you know the song? They're like, no way you know the song. I was like,
All right, anyways, hold on, let me bring it back. Let me stop the screen
This
share.
is just this year for March Madness.
So, okay, so basically, this dude just walks out the McNeese basketball team. He's got a boombox, and they're just all rapping this one song. And it got so hyped, so viral, so fast. Like overnight, this dude's signing brand deals with like Buffalo Wild Wings, TurboTax, Insomnia Cookies, Under Armour's flying out to give him a custom-made jumpsuit. I'm like, this is crazy. Like when the internet picks something up, it goes so wild with it that it's just, I literally made the joke. I go, the only thing that would be better right now is if I saw Amir Khan do Ashton Hall's morning routine.
That would be the ultimate like PR, like pop
Literally.
No,
But
good for that kid. That makes me happy. That's hilarious, and I love that he's like blowing up because of it. That's just awesome.
just an average guy who loves basketball, has good energy. He's, for lack of words, I mean, yeah, he's their team manager, so I'm sure he's doing some official duty type shit, but he's really just like a hype man. And so ironically, I think now him and the head coach have got offers from another school. So they're both leaving, going to a better school. So, I mean, again, props to them, congratulations, but it's just so crazy to me. Social media is wild, bro.
Yeah, sometimes it can be so cool and just lead to awesome things.
Speaking of social media being wild, I got another one for you. Hold on, let me share this one. So, so you know how we've been joking around about this Wes Watson situation, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'll give you a little context before I play the video. So we had Kenny on the podcast last week. Kenny's got a friend, a mutual friend. His name's Eric Konevsky. Eric, I'm not sure if you've ever seen any of his videos, but Eric is jacked. He's this huge bodybuilder dude. He doesn't compete anymore, but he still coaches and trains. I mean, he looks great. But anyways, long story short, Eric's known for fitness prank videos. And one of his most famous fitness prank videos is asking bodybuilders to weigh them and measure them. And oftentimes, you know, some guys will be honest and be like, oh, 5'7", 200. And then other guys will be like, oh, I'm 5'8", 220. And then he'll be like, oh, do you mind if I check? And then they get all weird because they're like, no, why do you want to check? Like, why? So anyways, so Eric, with this whole Wes Watson thing that's been going on, Eric, he's got a shaved head. He's got a beard. He's jacked. So what does he do? He makes a Wes Watson character. Now, hold on. The video I'm about to show you is Eric pranking the real Wes Watson. He goes to his gym in Miami dressed as Wes Watson to meet Wes Watson.
Oh,
it is, dude, hold on. Let me share the screen on this one. Hold on. Share sound. Okay, share. All right. Can you see the screen again?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me go to YouTube. Dude, this shit is so funny. You're gonna die. Wes Watson tries to fight me in person. All right, here we go.
I was gonna say, how does Wes take it? Because he's not the most level-headed.
Not
To
well.
get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience.
He
or
does
degree.
not take
the
it
Google
well.
Data Analytics Certificate.
You exactly.
All right, here you go.
To get started
Another
in data
ad.
analytics, you don't need previous
Awful.
experience or a degree. The Google
really
Data
make me
Analytics
upgrade.
Certificate will
Hey, am I 5'8"? Am I 5'8"? That's what I want to find out.
You might be wondering how I ended up here. Let's start from the very beginning. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is
All right,
Eric.
hold on. Let me go to the part where he's actually confronting him. So actually, you should see. So Eric will do these characters and just go do random things as the character. So watch this.
A character based on Wes Watson.
You dumb motherfuckers need to understand this.
Most of you guys love
He went to a city hall meeting and was yelling at like government. All right, but wait, here we go. So
Like him
Wes
already.
posts this. Wes posts this, and then Eric, watch this.
Check it out.
Hey, honestly, I don't really watch those spoof videos about me, but that one was funny. If I saw that guy in person, I'd be like, dude, you are classic. Like,
Okay, so Wes is like, all right, he's funny. Like I would be
Yeah.
friends with this guy, right? So Eric is like, okay, you know what? Let's go get a height and weight measurement on him. Here we go. Dude,
Too much going on.
here we go.
Jesus fucking Christ. Look at this stud over here. Why?
As you can see, he went 0 to 100 right away. Again, did I think this could possibly happen? Yes. Did I think it actually would? No.
What's your name, man? My name is Wes. Actually, WW Dago. All the motherfuckers know that's Wes Watson from San Diego. I can't talk to this straight up stud over here.
All right. Anyways, you get the drift. But dude, I saw that video yesterday and I was like, yo, Eric is so funny. For one, not just making the character of Wes Watson, but he literally pulled the Spider-Man meme in real life and went to meet Wes Watson as Wes Watson. And Wes freaked out, which, again, I wouldn't have expected any other reaction. But when I saw that, I thought that shit was so funny.
God, well, he's such a turd. If someone walked into the gym like dressed as me, I would laugh my ass off. I'd be like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Like, why would that make me mad? Even if
Yeah,
you were coming in to check my weight and measurement, which I wouldn't have lied about in the first place, but I'd laugh my ass off if someone came dressed up as me.
Yeah, I mean, and based on the video, the real Wes posted the day before saying, "Oh, I think this guy's funny. If we met in real life, I'd be cool with him." And then they
Yeah.
meet in real life, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, it's like, so are you just lying through your ass? Like, what was
Dude,
that
I thought that was so funny. But I guess the recent update on the whole Wes Watson thing is, obviously he's facing charges. Someone said he might even be facing up to like 25 years for what he did, which 25 years sounds a little steep, but I don't know. I mean, you gotta pay the time if you do the crime, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know. 25 years for that seems a little bit steep, but realistically, that's probably like the max that he could face, and he'll face less even if convicted. And then again, also like he's a prior convict, so he's already got some strikes. So that might be part of why the possible sentence is so bad, is because he's already got some strikes against him versus being a first time offender kind of thing.
Well, speaking of people being sentenced, you remember we were talking about the UFC fighter Cain Velasquez, and I think he just got sentenced yesterday, and I think they gave him 5 years. And I heard a statement he released where, obviously he was very apologetic for his actions. He said he didn't handle it the right way, But I now heard the story that it was his son who was being sexually abused. I got to be honest, I'm not mad. I probably would have done the same thing Kane did. The only apology he said was, I shouldn't have opened fire in an area where I could have harmed other people and put them at risk. So he admitted his wrongdoings, but it still sounded like kind of that real one inside of him was like, you don't fuck with my kid and get away with it. And obviously now he's got to do the time. I think based on time served and how long this has gone on, I think they're already taking maybe 2 years off of his incarceration. But nonetheless, like, imagine the preschool, you take your son, you come to find out that your son's being molested by one of the teachers there. I mean, it would take a lot for me not to want to kill that dude too.
I'd murder someone for sure. I have, like, what Kane did, obviously retrospect or, our outside perspective, knowing what happens.
Yeah.
Not the best way. However, I fully support his want and, desire to hurt that person. Because, it was somebody.
I get it.
So, I don't think the execution was great, but I understand the feeling, and I would be the same way. I would never want to harm anybody else. And that was the big problem. And so I do, at first I'm like, I don't think he should be in jail. Like, fuck it. But he did, he didn't handle it properly. Had he only attacked and only hurt the predator and, isolated incident, he walks in or something and it's just him and the predator in his house with his son, and then you take him, okay, that's fine. Honestly, I'd say no jail time. Like, God's work was done. That was karma. But he put other people at risk. So, like, a little jail time, I do kind of understand for that part, because he didn't like he admitted he didn't handle
like
I still feel bad. Like, I kind of don't want him to be in prison. Like, I emotionally I don't want him to be in jail at all. I do kind of see why he got in some trouble, but now I want to see what happens, because the predator, it hasn't even been sentenced or hasn't been like tried or found guilty of anything yet. So I'm like, all right, if he got 5 years, and I heard, like you said, I think he got 3 times served already, so he's got 2 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 for time served, because it's been like prolonged for the court system and whatnot.
Yeah, but now, like, I'm like, all right, like I said, emotionally, I let Kane free, but I do understand him getting some trouble for open firing in a like neighborhood or whatever. But what's going to happen to the predator now? Like, that predator I hope they go away. I like.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean,
in 5 years, they better be handled.
I don't know. It again, like, is shooting at somebody okay? No, of course not. I'm rational enough to know that. But is shooting at someone who molested my son okay? Yeah, actually, I think it is. And I know that it kind of sounds crazy, but like, I'll dial it back. Again, referencing like when I was younger and I would play hockey or I would coach hockey out here. And there would always, a couple times a year, be someone stupid enough to, obviously, you leave your clothes, your phone, your wallet, your keys, everything in your bag in the locker room while you're on the ice. And so there would be someone who would sneak into the rink, go in the locker room, steal people's shit. And I always said, I go, if I catch somebody doing that in the locker room, I'm literally dragging their ass out on the ice. I'm fucking taping their shit to a net, and we're shooting pucks at them. You're now the goalie with no pads, because that's the punishment. And when you walk out of here, however you leave, I don't give a shit, because you tried to literally fuck over all the people on the ice. So now that's your punishment. Do I think that's extreme? Yeah, of course it's extreme. But do you think that would prevent somebody from ever stealing from a hockey locker room again? For sure. So the point I'm getting at is I think sometimes, like, self-policing is okay, but also, again, to what extent? And I mean, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner, but I'll tell you what, I just keep going back to the fact, I mean, if someone even put their hand on my dog the wrong way, I'm gonna fucking kill him. So you touch my kid the wrong way, oh, it's on. It's on.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think about this a lot, actually. We need more violence. And I'm not saying random violence towards strangers.
Proper violence.
But we need certain violence. Pedophiles, I absolutely think should be put down. There should be, I'm not going to get into the exact details, but like, I do understand wrongful convictions happen, but if it is under certain guidelines, if it's like very clearly this person did it and there's no doubt, it's not controversial, like there needs to be like maybe a year at the max of waiting and then execute them. Those, people who prey on women or children, especially in a sexual manner, I don't consider human anymore. So I have zero empathy. In fact, I would
Yeah.
love to hurt them. And then, but the thing is a lot of crimes go relatively unpunished. And I've even heard, some rapists get like 2 years in jail and then they're out. And it's like,
Just nothing to deter that behavior.
yeah,
It's just a timeout from the real world, and then they come back and they're probably doing the same sick shit
yeah,
again.
exactly. And there's a lot of people, and there's even I guess less serious crimes, but there's some people who have like 13 arrests in 2 years, or like something crazy, and it's like, why is this person still out on the street? And it's like, oh, man who has 13 prior convictions murders someone. It's like, well, no shit. Look at his record. Like, of course he did. We could have seen this coming. And it's like, but you gave him 3 months probation, a year on house arrest. And then, this guy who's hurt many people finally goes really far. And it's because we lack legitimate punishment. And sometimes punishment should be violent. Like I said, I'm not
They'll
saying
teach someone real quick.
Yeah. And like for people like pedophile, I'm on Kane's side. I would kill somebody if they, especially in a sexual manner, harmed my family, friends, Liz, anyone like that. I will die for them, and I will kill for them.
I'll tell you what, I mean, even when we talk about just a proper amount of violence, right? I remember being a teenager and I talked back to my mom one time, dude, my dad knocked me the fuck out. Now it's funny because my dad loves that story, because now he says there ain't no chance he could knock me out. But also I remember coming to, and I was like, and I was all dazed and confused. But I'll tell you what, I never talked back to my mom like that again, because I knew I'd probably get knocked the fuck out, and I didn't want those consequences. So I do think violence definitely can wake someone up and deter the behavior. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't know. I with the Cain Velasquez stuff, I'm Team Cain on this one. I mean, I almost, if the judge would be like, hey, listen, you can't shoot at people, here's a year probation, no jail time, I would be like,
oh yeah,
I would be mad,
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is, I think it was in Texas, where a guy beat his child's abuser to death, and they dropped all charges, and they just let it go. They're like, that's cool. I was like, that's justice right there.
I mean, I don't want to ever say an eye for an eye, but it's like, clearly there are some bad people in this world, and sometimes karma's going to catch up to them. So, I mean, whether that's the legal system, whether that's street justice, if you will, but it's like, do I feel bad for that guy in Texas? No, fuck him.
Yeah.
All right. That's, you know what? Actually, I got one more thing that the internet's going crazy for, and this, I got a screen share on this one. I want your, hold on, let me screen share one more time.
Is this the old Timmy boy talking about Sam?
Yeah. Did you see it already or no?
I saw it like right before we started.
Oh, okay. I don't need to pull it up then, but
no, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it earlier today, actually. So I saw the.
So for context, because we're not going to pull up the video on this one, but Tim Wilkins is a fellow athlete. He's a competitor. He was at North Americans with us. I was backstage with him taking photos, and I don't have a bad thing to say about Tim. I think he's actually a great guy, but I think his take today was a little off. For any of us who aren't pros, to critique a pro that harsh is one, a little subjective, but two, for him to literally just openly chastise Sam's steroid use or abuse without even knowing what his stack is, because none of us know, it's really kind of just, and I think Lee Priest actually clapped back at Tim today, like, who the fuck is this guy type thing. But it's one of those things where, like, again, like, Sam has inspired a generation. Sam did what he had to do to earn his pro card. What he does moving forward, I don't want to say is almost irrelevant, but what he's done for the sport already, and respectfully, sorry, Tim, if you're watching, it's more than Tim Wilkins has ever done for the sport. So with that being said, how could you hate on somebody who's growing a sport that needs to be grown, putting it in front of children who now are like, I want to be a classic physique pro. I want to compete. Sam made me feel this way. And to see someone who, for lack of better words, like us, we're just talking heads on a podcast, but have we ever once like talked shit on somebody and been like, this person's bad for the industry, they need to stop right now? Like, no, we're just like, hey, maybe we don't agree with this person. Here's how we would go about it, but to each their own. So I thought Tim had some really hot takes on Sam Sulek today that were kind of just, again, everyone's always just clout farming off of his name. And so now, of course, everyone's talking about Tim Wilkins today. No one talks about Tim Wilkins ever. So
yeah.
Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I saw that and I was like, I don't like Sam and I don't dislike him. I'm just kind of indifferent. I don't follow him. I have nothing against him. And I don't consume any of his content really. But I have nothing against him. And like we've talked about it before, I think what he's accomplished so far, especially at his age, is awesome. Great physique, way better than I ever looked. I think he deserved a class win. I think the pro win in the overall was questionable, but it is what it is. And I'm happy for him because either way, whether it was questionable or not, he didn't make the decision. It was the judges. So I don't blame him for that. But yeah, Tim's comments, I was pretty surprised. Because again, I'm very ignorant on Sam Sulek and his content, but I have never heard or seen or heard about him being cocky or an asshole or pushing drugs on people or saying that his diet is the best or that he's doing everything right. As far as I know, he seems humble, he works hard, and he's just sharing what he does. He's not saying it's the best thing. He's not telling you about steroids. He's not telling you to abuse drugs. He's not like encouraging you to do anything. He's just kind of recording himself and people love it. So it sounds to me like he's being attacked a lot because his name is Sam Sulek versus the type of person he is. Because I don't like him and I don't consume his content, but I don't dislike him. And he sounds like a humble, hardworking kid who's just living life. So knowing that he's, if it was somebody like the Trend Twins or like people who are like obnoxiously pushing drugs or just total fools, then I might agree. But like, it seems like Sam's just a humble kid. And the worst thing about him is that everyone else won't stop talking about him. And that's like, and that's not his fault. People just consume his content and like him. And I think there's probably a reason why. Like I said, I really don't follow him. I don't know, but like, I have nothing bad to say about him.
I mean, as a grown man to go on another platform and just be like, fuck this dude. He's toxic for the industry. He's not what we need. Like, whoa. I guess he rubbed Tim the wrong way. But again, no shade at Tim because I've met Tim. I've had many conversations with him and I like Tim. I think Tim's a great dude, but it doesn't mean I have to agree with everything that just because I like you, I don't have to agree with everything that comes out of your mouth. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be times on this podcast where maybe you say something and I disagree or vice versa, but that doesn't change how good of friends we are. So I don't know. When I say I didn't like it, to knock somebody down who's done so much in such a short time for the industry, say a year and a half, it's been that Sam's been posting videos like this. All he's done for the industry is help grow it, get his name out there, make people want to compete. So, I mean, dude, Sam gets a pass in my book. And almost like you said, with like, if we compared him to like the Trend Twins, well, I'll be honest, I actually think the Trend Twins are hilarious. They remind me of just like younger versions of like me and my boys in the gym, just like being loud, obnoxious, talking shit. Now, granted, do I think that they know a lot about gear use and bodybuilding? No, but I think that's one, they have a coach. Two, they're consistent. And three, they're just having fun. So who would I be to hate on somebody who's literally putting in work and having fun doing it? Maybe they push the agenda of gear use a little more by joking around about, oh, we just took Anadrol before this workout or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not like they're like, all right, kids, here's our stack. Here's what you should do if you want to get huge, And that's where I kind of have a problem with content is when people are openly disclosing the doses, the compounds, because then you're setting yourself up for someone to try and copy your exact protocol, which we know is not smart.
Yeah, and kids will definitely do that. They'll be like, oh, I saw this pro bodybuilder taking these 3 things. I'm going to do the exact same thing, except they're 19 and 140 pounds.
Yeah, it's wild. Let's do a few more for today. While we're on the topic of like kids and whatnot, this is, I guess, kind of going viral right now, but I'm sure you're familiar with Joey Swole and the type of content he does with gym positivity. And so there was a post he made earlier. The footage hasn't been released, or maybe it has, and I just didn't see it. But the gist of the situation was there's a guy posing or doing poses, taking photos, videos in a locker room yesterday. And then I guess this guy's like 14-year-old son is like in the background and, probably kind of looking like seeing what this guy's physique looks like. He's just curious. But I guess then the guy in the video starts like laughing or making fun of the kid for like looking at him pose. But it's like, okay, there's so many things wrong with this whole video. But my take on it is really like, one, you shouldn't be posing in a locker room. Like there's designated areas in most gyms nowadays that you can go drop your pants, pose in just your trunks or whatever. But also like, I still think it's crazy how in 2025 with social media being as widespread as is, that people just don't have enough knowledge and foresight to respect the people around them. Like if I'm in a locker room and I'm trying to take a selfie, I don't want someone else in the background of my photo. That's weird for me, but it's also weird for them. And even if I'm on the gym floor, say filming content, I typically wait until like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night to even pull my camera out, because I don't ever want to be the type of person that's basically ruining someone else's workout so I can make content. At that point, you're not an influencer, you're a nuisance. And so like, I think I'm just like socially aware enough to read the room, but it blows my mind that some people can't recognize that, like, dude, we don't want to be in the background of your videos. We don't care to be the random bystanders staring at you, and we're staring at you because you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Like, so I don't know if I was curious if you had seen that one, but I was just kind of curious about your thoughts of the whole locker room selfie thing, because again, it shouldn't be a thing in my opinion.
Yeah. I didn't see that, so that's kind of news to me. I guess as far as locker rooms, I like if you're taking a selfie in the locker room and no one's around or no one's in the background, I don't think that's too big of a deal.
Right.
You know, if there's posing rooms a lot of the time now, not everywhere. So if there's a posing room, go pose in there. Or if you have to pose in the locker room because there isn't a posing room, again, I would kind of do the same thing like you said. I'm not gonna do it when like someone's behind me. I'm gonna wait. So
Yeah, it's
I
respect,
don't want
courtesy.
someone in my picture or video, but also just so they're not in my picture or video. If I don't know you, maybe you don't want to be in my video where I'm in my underwear. That's understandable.
Makes
And so
sense.
just out of common courtesy, I won't record. And I think of recording like sets or recording workouts in the same way. If I put my phone up somewhere to record a set, or Liz is recording me or something, and if someone walks through it, I'm probably not going to be that mad. Like if we're going to film,
I'm gonna
we're
keep
going
training anyways.
out of the way. Like we're going to train and try and stay out of the way, so we are being
Yep.
courteous of others around us. And if I'm not going to block an entire walkway to put up a tripod or something.
No.
But at the same time, like we know it's a public gym, and if someone is in the background, it's not the end of the world. Like it's not our gym. We don't expect others to move for us. Like I never ask someone, "Oh, can you like take a step back and like so I can?"
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, hey, get out the frame, bro.
Yeah, it's like I try to be courteous. It goes both ways. I try to be courteous and not be in the way of others, and definitely never ask or require anyone to like move for me. And
Yeah.
then on the other end, like I try, if I see someone put up a camera or that's very obvious they're recording, I'll stay back and I'll respect that I can see they're doing it. And I'll just try not to ruin it on purpose when I see them doing it. Because in reality, like I do record sets myself, but it takes me 2 seconds of being courteous of someone else filming when I know it's happening. Just wait, let them finish, and then I'll, or take a different path around them.
Exactly. I
It goes
mean,
both ways, I think,
yeah,
And
there is.
we're both kind of respective on both ends. Like again, I don't expect you to like army crawl to not be in my video. It is a public place, so if you walk through the video, I'm not going to be that mad. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like if I'm on the other end and I see a camera, I'm gonna try to not be in their video just for their sake, so I don't ruin it for them.
See,
But I think
what's-
like kind of the locker room, there's a time and a place. If nobody else is in the way,
Yeah.
I'm not too big worried about it. Or you wait until they're gone. Not the biggest issue.
maybe I just have a sensitive spot this week for people fucking with my kids that don't even exist. But I think to myself, if I were that dad and like I'm scrolling through social media and I see some guy at the gym I probably go to as well because my son goes there, and then I see him posting like posing videos in the locker room, cool, whatever, no big deal. But then I see my son in the background and he's like making fun of him. Like I'd be like, no, that's not cool.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
that's
Like, that's
weird.
fucked up.
Yeah, that's weird and like shitty.
But
How you
also
make-
too, like, what's funny is like obviously we're both dudes, so we can make this analogy, and I'm sure you'll know exactly what I'm referencing. But like, I think at a certain age, you just become that old man in the locker room who walks around, dick out, no towel, and like that's also something you need to be kind of respectful of, even though maybe they're not being the most respectful around you, just letting their junk flop around. But nonetheless, it's like the last thing I want to do is be taking a front double photo and you got fucking some 7-year-olds Johnson hanging out in the background. Like that's totally out of pocket.
Yeah, like I definitely don't want to post that, and I don't want to see that on my phone. Like
I don't even want to see it in real life, but I just know in a men's locker room, LA Fitness 530, that's what it's going to be. But like, fortunately at the gym I train at, like we have a designated posing room with the appropriate mirrors, the lighting. So it's like, we have a policy where it's like, all shirts have to stay on the gym floor and no photos or videos in the locker rooms. So right there, we just nip the problem right in the butt, because we don't even have that issue now, because people know like, hey, there's a designated space. You want to go drop down to your trunks and see what you look like, go do it in the good lighting, in the privacy of your own space.
yeah,
So,
that's totally fair. I agree.
but yeah, that one's crazy. Another one that I saw is crazy is, have you seen these drone deliveries?
I've heard about them.
I kind of
saw
want to like
when
order.
I think about it.
Like Shake Shack is right across the street from me, and I saw that they offer drone delivery in the West Valley, which is where I live. So I almost want to order it and see, like, I saw videos of it, but basically like a drone. I don't even know how this happens, like how the drone gets your food. Like, does someone control it? Is it all GPS automated? But basically the drone just flies over to where you are and just parachutes your food down, and then you pick it up like out of a box in your backyard. And I'm like, I kind of want to try it.
Oh my gosh, this is like a dystopian, like robot, like futuristic movie.
It is crazy. It's
Dude,
kind of
we
crazy
used to have
that's
cell
real.
phones growing up, and now we have flying robots delivering your fucking Starbucks.
Well, like obviously I have a drone that I use for like cinematic drone shots and stuff like that, but that still requires me as a human controlling it and can only go a certain distance. So I'm like also kind of confused, like, wait, are there all these really advanced high-tech drones that, one, don't require a person to do anything, and two, can just go, like, Shake Shack's maybe 200 yards from me, but like say we're ordering from a Shake Shack 20 miles away, like this drone's just gonna know to fly to me 20 miles north and be like, boop.
Honestly, I feel like if you have like an automated drone, you just have a human attach the food, or like put it, attach it or put it in a compartment or whatever. And then honestly, like I feel like it's not that crazy, especially with today's technology, to like hit fly and like type in the GPS like coordinates to your address, and then that thing can just use its internal GPS system and just fly towards that place and then land and then like return when the delivery is done. Like honestly, I'm sure that's possible. That
so
might not be
curious
how
to
it's
see it.
done, but like just a GPS controlled thing where like you just got to hit the play button or the start button and it'll go to the coordinates you type in. I don't even think that sounds that crazy.
Dude, I think just like, and as much as I love technology, sometimes I almost feel like we're living too much in the future. And this is one of those things where I feel like that's a little too advanced for me, but just one time I got to try it. So I don't know, if I get a cheat meal after this, I might see if I can have a drone deliver it, which would be pretty sick.
That reminds me, that's how that my patient and I got on the whole conspiracy theory train, is we got talking about like AI and robots somehow, and that just one thing led to another. But yeah, I feel like sometimes we're living like wildly futuristic times.
Crazy.
A little scary, like how advanced some of the stuff we have is.
Yeah.
And then also like it makes me, and some of it's so lazy too. Like
yeah, I could easily walk across the street and get a burger and fries, but here I am now. I'm like, ooh, let me just order it and have it dropped by a drone. Like a little lazy, but also like for me, it's the techie nerd side where I'm like, I want to see like what it looks like and how this works.
Yeah, I'm curious. I would kind of like to see that.
I'll let you know. And I mean, the funniest part is, like I said, Shake Shack's right across the street at the mall. I could walk right there if I wanted to. So clearly I am being lazy, but it's also like the curiosity in me that wants to know.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time's curiosity. If you keep doing it, then it might be lazy.
Wait, speaking of the mall and curiosity, okay, I gotta tell you this story. I don't think I told you this one yet, but so I was at the mall maybe 2-3 weeks ago now, and this is the story about like the blind couple at the mall. And so I'm walking through the mall, and of course, like I'm walking, I'm texting, I'm on my phone, not paying attention, and I almost walked into this blind couple, and I kind of stopped, and I was like, "Yo," I was like, "That's crazy. I can't ever in my adult life recall seeing two blind people that are like a couple." And so then like I'm so amused by this for many reasons, but so okay, a little fucked up. The first thought that honestly crossed my head was, even a blind squirrel will find an acorn every once in a while. That's kind of fucked up. But really, I was thinking, I wanted to know, one, how they met. Like I was almost just curious, like, was there like a blind group they're both affiliated with, or were they just like
ran into each other at the mall
Dude.
because they couldn't see?
I was
like, I'm so sorry, I'm blind, and they're like, no shit, so am I.
Dude, I was literally gonna say, like, what if they literally heard each other's sticks like tapping through the mall, and then they like just heard the noises getting louder,
Like,
and then that's how, like, but like, one, I want to know how they met, but two, this is genuinely why I'm still thinking about it and talking about it, is I actually thought it was like beautiful, to be honest. Like in a society where romance is so dead, if you really think about it, these are two people who genuinely like each other for their personality, because they will never know what the other person looks like. And I don't know, like maybe I'm just so ignorant that I've never seen a blind person in a healthy relationship, but to see two blind people like as a couple, I was like, wow, that's actually really beautiful, that like, I guess true love does exist, because they're clearly not dating each other for their looks. They never will know what each other looks like.
Yeah, that is crazy. That is kind of cool to think about. That's like gotta be like one of the truest forms of like love, I guess.
Dude, next time I'm at the mall and I see him, I'm gonna walk up to him like, "Hey, sorry, I know you didn't see me there, but can I ask how you met?" No. I I have to know, and I would like to imagine like we're all creatures of habit. So they probably go for like walks at the mall just because it's kind of like a safe enclosed area. And the mall here is pretty large, so they can get their steps in. But yeah, next time I see them, I gotta ask. I'm so curious because like I don't know, I just thought it was so cool where I'm like, damn, like that actually is beautiful. That's probably the truest, most genuine form of love I've seen in a long time, maybe since you and Liz, how well you guys treat each other when I was with you over Olympia, you know?
Yeah, I find that crazy and interesting.
Dude, if
I-
they tell me
so
they were
many
tapping
thoughts
sticks
running
and hurt
through
each
my-
other, that's crazy.
There's so many things running through my head now. I'm just like wondering. I was like, I have so many questions, and I'm like, because it's
Are
like
you trying? Are you thinking about how they have sex? Because of course that's where my mind went next.
I was there like a minute ago. That was so I was like, all right, so like they like you said, they aren't going based on looks, but I'm like, they can still feel though. Like, are they like
Yeah,
feeling
like-
it? All right, that feels legit.
Like, okay, this is an A cup.
I feel like this might be a little like too deep. Maybe I'm overanalyzing, but I'm like, how do they know what a good body is or what they like in a good body? Because they've never seen a
That's-
good body. So
but
it's like
that's-
they don't have any of those visual notions of what a good body is supposed to be. And
Dude,
then I'm
that's what
like,
I'm
I
saying.
feel like
They
I'm
really
going
like each other for their personality.
Yeah. So
It's
I
pretty
don't know,
cool,
it's
actually.
interesting. Yeah, it
It-
definitely is.
It almost restores. What's that?
I would love to know how they met.
I'm gonna find them, and hey, maybe we'll get
Got me
them
thinking,
on
I'm
the
like, how
pod.
did they meet? I'm like, how do blind people date? And then I'm like, blind people are just like us. They just can't see. But I'm like so fascinated on how they function.
There's just so many things I want to know about the dynamic of their relationship, and it's not coming from being nosy or like when I say I'm ignorant, like I want to learn because I'm curious, but I also like it actually comes from a place of I admire it because it's funny. I am working on, I love the statement tees we do for results, and I saw something the other day that inspired me, and so there's a shirt I'm going to make that says "Social media ruined romance" because I do think that's true with just everything that exists in the digital space. So when I see something like this blind couple who clearly loves each other for each other, not their looks, not their social media, not clout, not money. You're like, wow, that's genuine as fuck, and I respect it.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
So if this blind couple is listening to the podcast, shout out to them.
You guys go.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. All right, I got one more for you, and then we'll wrap up tonight. I got to go get some food in, but let's end on a spicy one tonight. Is obesity a choice or is it genetic?
It is 100% a choice. Your genetics do have a role. Obviously, bigger people might be, we all have different body types and different genetics. And there are things like, hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and stuff that can make losing weight more difficult. PCOS in women. So there's definitely things that play a role and can affect your ability to efficiently or effectively, change your body composition or lose weight. But at the end of the day, I know people who have hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and have striations in their traps. It might be harder for them because of their condition, but it's not an excuse. They still kill it. And then, so it's definitely not impossible to overcome those genetic factors or anything. Because at the end of the day, you choose what goes in your mouth. You choose how much or how little you move your body. You choose what you do with your life. You might not have been dealt the best hands in genetic, but you still have a choice every single day. So it's, in my mind, it's 100% your choice. Some people have it easier than others for sure. Some people are at a disadvantage with genetics, conditions, diseases. But at the end of the day, it's still your choice. And I've seen the examples who have who are less fortunate in their genetic playbook, still killing it.
I mean, I love when we go on Instagram and I'll tag you in them where it's like where they started and where they are now for bodybuilders. So take someone like a Sean Clarita. I know I sent you that one recently, or even a Mike Sommerfeld, and you see the evolution. So what does that tell you? Well, one, it was time. Two, it was effort. But three, yes, there is a genetic component in there. But the point I'm getting at is most people don't even follow a diet, train hard enough, and rest and recover adequately to figure out what their genetics will actually look like or are capable of. So rather than even pushing themselves just a little bit, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm just fat. It's my genetics. And it's like, no, motherfucker, you haven't followed a diet, you haven't worked out, and you don't take care of yourself to even figure out what your genetics are capable of, to know where your genetic ceiling lies for being a healthy individual. Instead, you're just going to eat like shit and say, oh, well, it's bad genetics, or, oh, I was born this way. and I agree with you. I think being fat is a choice. You see like all these videos on Jubilee. If you know what that is, it's a channel on YouTube where they'll do like fit people on one side, fat people on the other, and they'll kind of ask them questions. And dude, Greg Doucette was on one. It was hilarious because, you know, Greg's going to shoot it straight the whole time. But it's funny because, yeah, I just think like so oftentimes people are going to be fat because it's a choice. And then they're going to use the excuse of, I have bad genetics, which is why I'm fat. When in reality, you're just lazy. That's literally what it comes down to.
Yeah, the genetics thing, it's an excuse. You know, I'm just big bone. I have bad genetics. My family's fat, whatever. It runs in the family. No, it's your choice. Like those are excuses.
Laziness runs in your family, and your mom was lazy, your sister's lazy, and guess what? You're lazy too.
Yep, exactly. Like it's 100% a choice. But that's funny because you brought up Mike Sommerfeld. I'm pretty sure one of his transformation photos, he even talked about like genetics being bullshit in his mind. And then it's about hard work. And like I said, in regards to bodybuilding, genetics definitely play a role. However, they won't take you everywhere.
You can come say hi. We're just doing a podcast. Come say what up. One of my neighbors just walked in. This little lounge area is like, it's like such an aesthetic. Say what's up. My boy Justin. No, this area is like so aesthetic that like I'll be in here doing the podcast. Other people come in. There's like a beautiful city view. She's going on the patio to take some photos. So she walks in and she's like, and I was like, and then I was like, no, I was like, come say what up. But no, it's funny. But back to the genetic thing, like Mike had one bulk he talked about where I think he put on like maybe 40 plus pounds. And that was like the bulk that changed everything for him. But again, like that wasn't his genetics that helped him gain the weight. It was he was eating food. He was training hard in a surplus. And so it's like, well, no shit. What do you think is going to happen when you're training hard and eating in a deficit? Of course, you're going to lose weight. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, oh my God, I'm training and I'm eating right and I'm losing weight. This is crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, your genetics play a role, but yeah, what you're doing, your diet, your consistency, your training, your recovery, your sleep, all that stuff, that matters.
It might be, sorry, Justin, hold on. I think they might be behind that curtain, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know though. Is there anything back there or no? Are there lights out there? I know. Oh, no, you're good. She was trying to find the lights on the patio. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I think too often people are just lazy and they're going to just blame poor genetics on being overweight versus like, dude, go to the gym for 7 days, eat healthy for 7 days, and I guarantee you'll see results. Like guaranteed.
Yeah. We talked about this, I think on the podcast, maybe we will.
Mm-hmm.
But like if I would have just looked at my genetics, whether it came to hockey or bodybuilding, I would never have got where I am today because I don't have great genetics.
Me neither.
I'm already taller than both my parents, and I'm not that tall. So, like, I'm taller than both of them. I have more muscle than either of them have ever had combined, and it's not because they're genetic specimens. Like, I have maximized my genetic potential the best I can this entire time through consistency, discipline, eating right, training hard, getting sleep. Like, it's not my genetics that got me this far. If you looked at my parents and looked at me 10 years ago, you'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, same.
That stuff is going to matter way more, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that have good genetics and they don't make it very far because they don't work hard, or they're not consistent, or they can't follow a diet. So,
well, the inverse of it is I do think there are people that have maybe a genetic predisposition where it takes somebody like a Keon, right? Keon has the fullest, most bubbly like muscle any of us have ever seen. We know he turned natural pro and his insertions, just everything about Keon is like 10 out of 10. But that's a one of one human being. So it's like there are going to be those freaks who, they go to the gym for 3 months and look like they're a pro already. But at the same time, that's an outlier. That's not the norm, So I just hate when people say, oh, well, you're lucky you have good genetics. And I always tell them, I'm like, dude, I have to use supplements and eat 5,000-6,000 calories a day to look like this. So clearly I don't have great genetics. You just see the end result and you're like, oh, good for you. You look phenomenal. Good genetics. No, hard work.
I think genetics are what like separates the top 1%, the Keons and the Phil Heaths and stuff like that, and Cutlers.
Some people are meant to be bodybuilders, straight up.
Yeah, like hell, look at Phil Heath. You see when he was like in college, he was jacked then. And he was
as an athlete. Like,
he had a lot of
yeah.
muscle, jacked as a college basketball player.
Uh,
And so like his genetics are great, and I think that's part of what made him stand out amongst the pros and amongst the best of the best. But you had guys where I feel like people like Branch Warren weren't genetically gifted, but he
the
worked
hardest working guy in the room.
yeah, he worked like a motherfucker, and wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing. He didn't have the best insertions and like smallest waist, but he worked his ass off to get there. But Phil Heath had the genetics and worked his ass off, and was one of the best is one of the best bodybuilders of all time. But yeah, the excuse with genetics is where like my problem is. It's
Dude,
saying you have bad genetics. It doesn't matter. Like I could have said I had bad genetics and never accomplished what I've accomplished. But I'm maxing out whatever potential I have through the things that I can control. So, and like maybe Branch was the same, or like any of those people that have that excuse. It's like you might never be Phil Heath, you might never be Elon Musk, but you're going to be way less if you don't try. Like genetics aren't an excuse. We can all work hard, and regardless of our genetics, as long as if we work the best we can, the hardest we can, it will eventually be better in the future, and we'll be the best version of ourselves. Whereas if you don't even try because your genetics, you're going to be the worst version of yourself, probably.
there's a girl I use as an example. She used to live in Arizona. Her name's Phoebe. She lives in San Diego now, I think. But her transformation, and I didn't work with her at all, so not taking credit for it by any means, but just in awe of how good her transformation was. And when I say a girl who was fat to fit, I mean, like I can send you her page and show you what I'm talking about before, but she was probably 5'8", 250 as a female, which that's big, right? And she was always, and this is her own words, not mine, but I was always the fat friend in high school. I wouldn't get any attention from boys. And so it got to a point where she made a conscious decision to make a change. And so she started getting to the gym. She started losing weight. She ended up competing. Dude, I just saw her post the other day that she's in like the final round of a competition now to be in a Victoria's Secret like shoot. And I'm using her as the reference point because this was someone who was big, who had the stretch marks. But guess what? They worked their ass off to literally make the physique that they wanted. And now to go from being fat, which clearly I think the majority of society would say is not really the ideal physique, to now on the other side to be potentially a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, which people look at as the epitome of health and sexy. It's so impressive to me because clearly it was all right here and all right here the whole time. She didn't be like, oh, well, I'm just meant to be a fat girl my whole life. No, she's literally gorgeous and always was, but just need to peel a few layers off to really become the best version of herself.
That was such a nice way to say that.
Well, no, but I mean, like,
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. Like,
I was like, she didn't look great. Now she does.
Well, like maybe put some makeup on.
I mean, I'll say it because I think it's true, and I mean it in a compliment. So if she's listening, and I'll say it to your face, like, and I've actually never seen her, but you look better when you're fit. You look more pretty when you're. Of
course.
And so she obviously was probably a beautiful person hidden under fat, and she got skinny or got fit, and now she's probably looks wonderful. Everyone looks.
I would imagine her whole life probably changed.
Oh yeah, but that also congrats to her. That's awesome, and shows once again if you don't try because your genetics are bad or because of whatever excuse you have, you'll never know. And even if your genetics aren't great, look what she accomplished. Like. No one is going to say she had good genetics, but she obviously looks good now.
I mean, think about that gap from the designated ugly fat friend in high school and college to the swimsuit model in adult life. Like, and that's probably, let's say, an 8 to 10 year gap.
Literally one extreme to the other.
But guess what? Props to her because she bridged it. And that is like an example I always use. I'll show you her before and after, and you're like, holy shit. But it'll blow your mind because, again, like I have a girl I'm working with right now who she's like, hey, like I'm a little concerned about some loose skin. I said, yeah, that's going to happen as we're peeling off these layers. I said, but guess what? As we're building muscle, we're going to tighten, we're going to tone. And so I use that girl Phoebe as an example. I say, here's what a great transformation looks like. You can do it too. And so like, again, I don't know if Phoebe listens to this podcast, but if she does, props to you on your journey. And I hope you end up achieving your goals with the Sports Illustrated stuff. It's just so cool for me to see someone who doesn't sit there and say, well, I'm fat because of genetics. I'll just be fat my whole life. Like, no, I'll put in the work and I'll build the physique I want, period.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like seeing those really drastic like body composition transformations because it's always cool. Because like what their before picture, like they had to have been struggling, and it can't
Oh.
be a great life physically, mentally,
Oh.
emotionally. And then they turn around and lose all this weight. It's like, hell yeah, good for you. Like I like to see that stuff.
Have I ever told you the Florida story about the fat family on the beach?
I don't know.
You
Go
just
shoot.
reminded me of it. I'll tell you the story and then we'll wrap up. But so this would have been after my first show I ever did. And I went on vacation to Florida. I was out there with a girl I was dating at the time. And I remember the story like it was yesterday. But we were walking down the beach to go to dinner, and both of us were fully clothed. But again, you can kind of tell a fit person like through, like if I see you walking down the street, I'm like, yeah, the dude's jacked. So you know. So you can see someone who's in shape, relatively speaking, through their clothing. And so we're walking down the beach, we're fully clothed, and there's this family of three, and they're so overweight, so obese, all of them grossly overweight. And they make eye contact with me, I make eye contact with them, and it was kind of just this very awkward, tense, like glare towards one another. And of course, unfortunately, I'm judging them, and unfortunately, they're judging me. We both have no idea what each other's been through. So fast forward, we go to dinner, whatever. Next morning, we go to the gym, and I'm sitting there, I'm training. I pull my AirPods out, and I said, "Hey, babe," I go, "You remember that family from the beach yesterday?" And my girl goes, she's like, "Yeah, what about them?" And I was like, "Breaks my heart." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, think about how you and I vacation." So at that time, the day before, we had went to like Ponce de Leon's lighthouse tower, which, don't quote me on this, but maybe it's like 1,000 steps to the top, and it's a very narrow little hallway to get all the way to the top. And so we went and we did that, just being tourists and sightseeing for an Instagram photo. But I said, I go, think about how we vacation, how we travel, and we go on all these little adventures. I go, but for them, they've made so many bad choices in their life that I know why they were looking at you and I the way they were, because their body has become nothing more than this vessel that their soul is trapped inside. And they go from place A, which is their couch, to place B, which is the beach. And all they're doing is watching life pass them by with their head on a swivel like that. And I was like, it's sad, because as a coach, as an athlete, I wanted to go over to them and be like, hey, like, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow, right down the street on the other side of the beach at 11 a.m. You want to come hit a workout? But one, it's not my place. Two, it's rude. And three, I already know it's fucked up to say, but one workout ain't going to change shit. And so that story just stands out to me so much, because I don't know what these people were going through, but I obviously, in my heart, I want to help them. But they also don't know, as they're judging me, oh, look at this fit motherfucker who's got it all figured out. But they don't know that a year prior to that, I nearly died. So it's one of those things where I think it's sad how we will, just as human nature, judge people. But I wasn't judging them on, oh, look how fat they are. I was judging them as, damn, I want to help them, because I've been at that point where I didn't have my health at all. And so I know what a gift it is to live a healthy life. And so that story just sticks out to me, because again, there's two types of people who make excuses and people who get shit done. And clearly they've made so many excuses that life is now just passing them by. But I'll never forget just that awkward stare between us. And it hurt, because I was like, damn, like I want to help them, but it's so far gone that I can't do anything, you know?
You're way nicer than I am.
You're like, look at these fat motherfuckers eating
I'll be
cheeseburgers
honest,
on the beach.
Fat people gross me out.
I don't know if they gross me out, but like I'm not attracted to it. Like I don't think I've ever. I always this is funny. I always joke and I say I have 3 requirements for any female I will date. 1, she has to be shorter than me. 2, she has to weigh less than me, and 3, she has to have bigger tits than me. If I follow those 3 guidelines, I end up okay.
That's going to be our clip that goes viral right next to Andrew Tate.
Now I got to dunk my face in the water.
The liberals are going to come after you for being misogynistic and yeah.
Well, I think everyone, every male, every female has their standard of beauty or what they're attracted to, what they like. And I mean, if someone wants to knock me for my preferences, that's fine. I don't give a shit. But the point I'm getting at is, yeah, there's a certain criteria in my opinion and in my world where I'm like, yes, attractive, no, not attractive. Will I say fat people, I don't find them as attractive? Okay, sure. But can I say that I've still seen some fat girls that I think are pretty? Yeah, I can admit that.
Yeah. But I fat people kind of bother me a little bit. Now, I will say I will never treat someone poorly. So before everyone thinks I'm the world's biggest asshole, I'm probably just like the second biggest asshole. I will never treat someone poorly because of their body. I will never be rude or be a mean person or not be friends with them or something. But I don't understand why people would let themselves get fat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, like if I see someone in the gym who's overweight and they're working out, I'll be like, cool, oh yeah, like I like that, and like
You're in the
that
right
makes me
spot.
like
You're
them.
trying to improve.
And now I would, yeah, seeing them try to improve, then I'm like, good for them. I hope they like keep at it. I hope they see success. And that is somebody I do root for and I care about and I have empathy towards. Someone who I see is making an effort to improve themselves. Now, when I'm at the grocery store and I see an obese family loading up cases of pop in their, in their cart and a bunch of TV dinners, you're fucking disgusting. And like you said, it is sad. I will say what you said, them now living a life where it's just kind of passing them by and they're just kind of bystanders now. That is sad. But I refrain from having any empathy because they did choose that life. It's the same thing, a career criminal who has, gone to jail time after time after time, and they're a felon, and now they're on house arrest or they're just in jail for the rest of their life. I don't have empathy for you because you made that choice, and that's the same thing with obesity or being overweight. Like you made those choices. I don't think you're a bad person. I might think you're lazy. I'm not saying you're a bad person though.
Just making bad choices.
Yeah, it's I don't feel bad for you.
Like I remember this is another story from during COVID. But like I was walking through the aisle at the grocery store and there's this woman who, again, like my 600-pound life type of physique, and I'm like, whoa, big mama. But so like here she was during COVID. Now she's wearing a mask because she's worried about her health. But when I look in her grocery cart, she is so disconnected from how healthy truly is because she's got the worst possible foods you could be buying. So it's like, how could you be so concerned about health that you wear a mask, but you're not concerned about what you're putting into your body? And it's the same fucking thing. Like, if anything, what you're eating is going to be more impactful than wearing a fucking mask,
During COVID, I thought the same thing every time I see someone wearing a mask. I'd look in their cart and it's always trash food. I'm like, you got health backwards. You're not.
Yeah, it's like if you wore a mask and you at least had like fruits and veggies in your cart, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
you're
give you a little bit more grace for that.
Yeah,
but that's not how it went very often.
No, it's not. What do you get into the rest of the night?
I got to get one more meal in and then get to bed. I think that's it.
Yeah, I just got to get some meals in. Pretty much all my work's done for the day. I've been doing, this is so stupid, but every 2 years I have to renew my real estate license. So like I have to do 24 hours of online education and I've got like 3 hours left of that shit tonight. So I'm going to eat a meal and just let that like run in the background for 3 hours while I do the quizzes. But yeah, pretty chill night for me. I got clients in the morning and then, dude, actually tell Liz, she'll get a laugh out of this, but tomorrow, and you've heard me mention him on the podcast before, but his name's Ryan Wilbanks. This was essentially the dude that got me into bodybuilding, like for real, linked me up with my first coach. Without Ryan, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't know Liz. I wouldn't know pretty much anyone I started my bodybuilding journey with in 2018. So he lives in California, but he's coming out here for the weekend. And him and I still keep in touch. He's a good friend. And so this is the one that's working with Matt Grego, actually, who I was mentioning. So he's coming out to Arizona tomorrow. Him and I are going to work out. It's probably the first time we've seen each other since 2018. And I'm actually really excited just to like hit a workout with him, catch up. And now he's kind of diving back into his bodybuilding career. So it'll just be kind of a cool nostalgic moment for me tomorrow. But yeah, tell Liz that I'm going to work out with Ryan tomorrow. She'll get a laugh.
Yeah, I'll let her know. That's cool.
We gotta do an episode 2. I know we talk about it a lot. And I was almost thinking tonight might be a good night to get Liz on the podcast. But honestly, sometimes it's kind of nice just doing like the bro chat between you and me because it just gives us a chance to catch up. But definitely got to get Liz on here to tell her story. As I mean, shit, now she's an Olympian. She's got Chicago Pro coming up, and hopefully getting back to the O again this year would be dope.
Yeah, for sure. I said the same thing earlier. She was like, who's on the podcast? I was like, well, I had a couple people who couldn't. I was like, you want to do it? And she's like, I'm too tired right now. I was like,
yeah,
all right, whatever.
No, I was going to say definitely like, and obviously for you guys watching at home, there's some weeks where Justin and I will reach out to people on our networks and try to get guests, but there's some weeks where like, obviously just schedules conflict. I had another buddy of mine who he's a pro. It was the guy that beat me in 2023 and then went on to win his pro card. He was going to come on tonight, but same thing, just time didn't work out with him. But so, yeah, I mean, if ever you guys see these solo episodes, hopefully they're just as entertaining. I'd like to think Justin and I are carrying some good bodybuilding conversation and bro chat without a guest. But yeah, I mean, it is always fun too, having like people on telling their story and us kind of like asking questions about it. But it's always cool just to kind of just run it back, you and I, how it all started.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I like it. And I think we should do it occasionally. Like just have us, do it.
Yeah.
Just us, because it's Two Bros podcast anyways.
You
Like
bros.
we're the OGs, so every now and then we gotta have like an OG episode where it's just us, and sometimes it's
Yep.
for us to kind of just chit chat and not have a guest, I guess.
Can I tell you, every time I go to type in the search bar, Two Bros podcast, and it doesn't pop up, and I have to change it to Two Pros, I low key get mad that I'm not a pro still. Because I'm like, dude, when I say I have the itch to like do a show, like I, I'm seeing so many people around me who are in prep right now and like starting to lean out and already have shows and everything picked out for the season that I'm like literally like sitting here like, okay, any day now. I'm getting bored, man. I'm getting bored. Dude, I've been off cycle since October 1st of last year. And I'm literally at the point where like a good workout for me consists of like 400 milligrams of caffeine and 5 milligrams of Cialis, but I'm ready to like switch gears. So
Yeah, I've been fake natty for a while now too, so I'm kind of itching to do something.
here's the best part I will say though, is if I look the way I do right now off everything, just wait until we hop back on, because I'll tell you right now, like when I say I'm at a good point with my training, my focus, my intensity, everything in the gym is exactly where I need it to be for where I am right now. And so I already know when we add that cherry on top, dude, to the moon, 2:30, I'm coming for you. What's that?
I said you're gonna take off. It's gonna feel great.
Bro, I'll be honest, like I posted a photo today that was a side-by-side transformation, and it was my first ever check-in photo of a side chest versus a check-in photo I took last night. And when I see how much development I've had in those 4 or 5 years in between, all I want to do is hit that fast forward button and be like, okay, let me see 3.0 version, like the next version of myself. Because like, I mean, you can probably look back at old photos of yourself and get so motivated by the progress you've made. And so now I'm at that point where I'm like literally just so giddy where I'm like, yeah, let's go.
That makes I wanna go back and look at one of my pictures from like 2018 to now.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, if ever, not like I was feeling shitty about my progress of where I'm at right now, I'm actually really happy with the physique. But like when I compare it to where I started, that is the best feeling ever, where I'm like, okay, yep, you're doing it, you know? And I think sometimes even as a high level amateur, we all still need that reminder that like we're moving in the right direction, and that's what keeps us motivated. So at least me.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, sometimes day to day, week to week, month to month, especially in the off season, you don't see a ton of change quickly, and you also see
Yep.
yourself every day. So it's hard to see the changes sometimes. But then you look 2 months back, 3 months back, a year back, 5 years back. You're like, oh, okay, like I've grown.
I'm a whole different human being.
So it's crazy, and sometimes those reminders are good to like remind you, like, yeah, you're on the right path, and like just because I don't see these changes day to day doesn't mean I'm not still moving in the right direction.
Well, I think for me too, when I look at the photos, obviously, yes, I'm comparing the physical aesthetic of the physique, but really, again, for me, I think so much of how much I've grown mentally as a human being, because I know the person I was in that left photo, just starting out my journey versus the person I am now. I have become such a better version of myself. And so like, it's not just the physique growing, it's the mindset too. And that's where, like, again, I say it every week, but dude, I don't know where I'd be if bodybuilding hadn't saved my life. So
That's a good point. I don't think about that as much, I guess, but I mean, a lot has changed over the years, like non-physical, emotional, mental, whatever kind of perspective too. That's pretty interesting to think about.
I don't know. Ever since that podcast we did with the RE2, I kind of do think about what both you guys mentioned, how bodybuilding is a lot more spiritual. And I think that also like brings me closer to the practice of it. Because, we can all admit, especially in the off season, when you're not running anything, training does get a little boring, but also at the same time, like, what you're doing now is feeding the direction you need to go in for tomorrow. So I don't know. There's just been so many eye-opening things that have been going on recently, where it's like, for lack of better words, people always say, don't take advice from people who aren't doing the same shit as you. Well, I learned that lesson a lot lately. But it's been very beneficial in keeping me growing mentally, physically, emotionally, but also like expanding my circle to like-minded individuals,
Yeah.
So, you got anything you wanna wrap with? Any promos, any brands you want to plug?
I mean, Results Athletic is pretty cool. recommend you getting some of that.
I heard they got a new drop coming pretty soon. Code Dr. J, 10% off, baby.
Yeah, we're looking for that to come out.
Actually, I'll tell you what. My guy that my screen printer messaged me while we were on the phone. Hold on, I'm gonna show you this one. This is a sneak peek. Can you read that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, that's a new one. I feel like that one looks pretty good. And then we got this one too coming out.
Oh, I like that.
That one, it's similar to the department. Oh, it's similar to this one I'm wearing, but it's like a version 2.0. Yeah, these look actually really good. But anyways, yeah, new drop soon, maybe next Friday. So one of the things I'll talk about real quick with results, I'm taking that. I don't want to call it like high fashion, but I'm starting to go more in the direction of doing studio shoots with actual like people, models, so they can be like, Justin is 5'7", 5'8", 230, wears a size 2XL. So that way I think it helps people shop for the right size, the right fit. But there's so many things like I'm doing on the business side now to like grow it, that like, not that I wasn't doing them before, but we were at such an infancy stage that it wasn't at the point where I was like, okay, I need to book out a studio. I need to call a friend that's a photographer. I need to get models. Now I'm looking at, I'm like, yeah, this is a necessity because I really want this to continue to grow as, you know, a fitness brand and a fitness apparel, but also too, like some of the shirts, like someone would wear this out to the club or out to dinner, which that's great too, that we're crossing into that lifestyle. So
yeah, that's sweet. I like that too.
Yeah. So, results. I know first form, you got first form. What's the code for Dr. J for everything, right?
That one, it's just actually it's a link. You're gonna have to go to the link in my bio.
Oh, I hate when it's a link.
I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah, that one's an actual just link versus a code.
Well, if you guys want to grab anything from Raw Nutrition, Helix, Code Wolf, I know those work. I think everything else like Flavor Gang, what else? Revive. I want to say all those are Code Wolfie. So we'll leave all our links down below like we always do. But Justin, anything you want to wrap with?
Not much. Everybody have a good night. To anyone in St. Louis, or if we actually have a local competition coming up here in St. Louis. I think we're 3 weeks out now on Saturday, tomorrow.
Nice.
I think tomorrow when this will be released.
Yep.
I'll be guest posing, and even cooler than me guest posing, Brett Wilkin and Martin Fitzwater will be there. So that'll be pretty cool. That's always a big show. So anybody in St. Louis listening, I recommend you guys showing up if you're interested in bodybuilding. It'll be a good time with some actual Olympians guest posing, and then little me too.
That's dope. I saw the poster that they added Brett and Martin to that, which is super dope. I mean, obviously sick experience for you to be a guest posing, but also now with those Olympians, like, dude, doesn't get much better than that.
At the Midwest last year with Brett and Martin as an amateur, and now I'll be there with them this year with Brett and Butcher Balm, and I'll be guest posing. So it's pretty crazy.
Dude, it really is crazy how like there were guys we would look up to in the space, and not like you were like idolizing them, but you looked up to them. They have good physiques. You obviously admire the work ethic, and now, like, for lack of better words, these are just our peers. So it's so cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm I'm definitely not on the level of Brett or Martin, but the fact that I'll be on the same stage as them, in the same league as them, official league, not like real league.
Yeah.
Notches above me, but just being on the same stage as them, both, being in the IFBB now, that is a wild thing to think about. So I'm so blessed to have this.
Yeah, it's special, bro.
I'm really happy about it. But yeah, it's pretty crazy because I definitely look up to them and respect them.
Yeah,
so it's crazy to think about where we started and where we are now.
Dude, that's just the reminder all the time. I think my last thoughts for today would be obesity is a choice, and blind people need love too.
And don't forget,
I think that's it.
JFK.
and I'm still trying to figure out who shot JFK. So maybe by next week I'll figure out some answers. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up for this week. So until next time, peace.